It's live. Yay. Finally, I did it.
Good morning, everyone. Let me drop this link in the Telegram group. We're
Yeah.
going to get started momentarily. Sorry for we had a few technical difficulties.
Actually, it was a technical success.
Yeah.
I finally figured out how to connect the Zoom broadcast to the stream key URL. Yay. It only took me like months. There was a setting buried inside the Zoom login. So if anyone ever wants to know how to connect their Zoom session to the YouTube URL, let me know and I will pass that along to you. Took me a
Good
little
morning,
while.
everyone. Good morning. So I guess we can get started.
Yes,
Get
sir.
started. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Cardano Effect Podcast, episode 91. The purpose of this podcast is to take high-level developer information and projects that are occurring within the Cardano space and break them down into bite-sized, consumable pieces of information for everyday use. I'm your host, Philippe, and let's get this podcast started. Rick and myself are the hosts of the Cardano Effect Podcast, and for all those who are new and are joining us, I'm sure that there are going to be a couple new people here, especially with the recent price changes in Cardano. This is our weekly live stream series where we discuss all the latest news and events that happen within the Cardano ecosystem, and we talk about blockchain as well. So we also go over to the Reddit. There's a Cardano subreddit, and we sort by top for this week, and we hit some of the main points that are going on within the Cardano ecosystem. So this is slightly different content from what we usually do on the Cardano Effect podcast. We have guests, we have discussions, we have a whole bunch of different things for the different viewers and listeners that are listening to the Cardano Effect podcast. So without further ado, I want to say none of what we say in this podcast is financial advice. Remember, you are your best financial advisor. And if you don't think you are, you need to find someone who's qualified to do so. Rick, how are you doing this morning? How are you doing this Sunday morning? What's going on? What's happening?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Philippe. I'm just glad it's a weekend. Boy, I needed a break, man. Long week. So thanks for the introduction there. And I would like to give a shout out to the Cardano Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you very much, Cardano Foundation. We very much appreciate your support. And I would also like to remind viewers who are new to this podcast, the Cardano Effect is available on all major audio streaming platforms. We're available on well over 75 different platforms, including all of the top 10. So if you're working out or driving in your car, you can listen to us on audio. You can listen to this podcast on AudioCast only. All right, so that's all I got for that, Philippe. And lots of news since our last live stream, and Philippe is all up to date on things. So if you want to get us started off with the news, go for it.
That sounds good. First, I'd like to just give a brief message to the new listeners and the new viewers of the Cardano Effect podcast. The Cardano Foundation, IOHK, and probably Emergo as well, has been putting out tweets and Telegram messages to make sure that you are wary of scammers. There are a lot of scammers within this crypto ecosystem, and I don't want to see anyone that's new and that maybe just purchased ADA or is interested in investing in ADA lose their ADA. Please remember that no one's going to reach out to you. There's no such thing as free ADA. If someone is reaching out to you asking you for your seed phrase or any private information, be wary of that. Just block it. There's nothing free in crypto. You invest if you choose to invest. If you don't, that's fine as well. And what's yours is yours, and no one should be telling you how to manage or move your money from this wallet to this wallet. It's a scam. And yeah. Rick, did you want to say anything about that?
Yes, please pass that on to any new people coming into crypto. No matter which cryptocurrency it is in, which project, please let them know early on, especially things like Telegram. There's really no security controls on Telegram. People imitate ambassadors who they imitate anyone. They imitate officials or developers, people working on a project. So if something looks too good to be true, it's not true. That's, if you just follow that rule, same rule that applies everywhere else. It just seems crypto attracts a lot more of the scammers, and the scammers kind of ruin it for everybody else. So as long as we keep them in check, then crypto will move forward. So yeah, help out the new folks by letting them know about scams and how to avoid them. And there's a lot of information being put out by Cardano Foundation over the last couple of months. They've been putting out, and they've also been posting in Telegram. Make sure you heed the warnings and pass that on to new people to read those warnings on how to prevent scammers. And if someone like DMs me on Telegram, if you DM me and say, hello, dear, you're blocked. If you never talk to me in public and I get this thing, hi, hello, dear, out of nowhere, block, instantaneous. Yes. That's it.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It's just how it works.
And if you have a fake profile reaching out to you that says Rick or Philippe, we're not going to reach out to you. We have nothing against anyone here, but we don't know you personally. You don't know us personally. So that's suspicion immediately. No one's going to personally reach out to you. Unless you've met us personally before, you have our personal information. But other than that, you need to be very wary of scammers.
Yeah, just block it.
Yes. So the next thing, yes, the first thing that, yeah. So the second thing that we need to talk about is there was a recent article on the Cardano forum. So you can go and check that out, create an account. And it was from the Cardano Foundation. I'd like to thank the Cardano Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. But I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to talk to you about it, Rick, and see how you felt about it. I have a few notes in front of me. And the title of the forum post was Showing Up, Taking Part, and Driving Conversations is Vital. So this is all about legislation within cryptocurrency. And we all know we've been in this space for a minute now. And for those that are just joining in, legislation is very hazy right now. You don't know exactly where you stand, especially if you're within the United States or certain countries that may be oppressive towards cryptocurrencies. So we're trying to figure out what's legal, what's not, what's maybe taxable, what's not. When are we going to have this clarity? And the Cardano Foundation has been working very hard and diligently in order to push the agenda forward and get some clear answers from representatives. So the article says that, first of all, the Cardano Foundation has 3 lawyers, Nathan, Domino, and Gianna. And they also have 2 people with law degrees, which is Tamara and Henrik. And they've been going around and making sure that they're joining various different organizations and lobbying in support of proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies, proof-of-stake protocols, and really pushing forward the agenda of what we need to do in order to become better investors and safer investors, so more money can ultimately flow into this ecosystem. So they've joined a Washington, D.C. based Proof of Stake Alliance, the POSA, and they sent a letter to the SEC in February. And for all of those that are not familiar with the SEC, it's a giant governing body within the United States. And I read through the letter this weekend, and it was pretty intense. So there are a lot of cryptocurrency projects that are part of the Proof of Stake Alliance. You have Tezos, you have Cardano, you have pretty much the major proof of stake protocols. They're all grouping together and lobbying in support of proof of stake cryptocurrencies. And the arguments that were being made were proof of stakes will create jobs. Proof of stake is more energy efficient than proof of work protocols. They highlighted the use cases of smart contracts and highlighted what proof of stake actually is. And they were also lobbying in protection of U.S. national interest. Their argument was that China, if we don't act now, nations like China are going to surpass us within blockchain. And this sentence was extremely important. The Proof of Stake Alliance proposes that in order to encourage the further development of the blockchain technology, that the receipt of staking rewards in the form of a digital asset is not a taxable event. However, the validator would take a basis of 0 in the digital asset. So we don't like to talk about tax on this podcast, but this is extremely important. We're going to briefly touch into it because right now within the U.S., there's something called like-kind trades, like-kind exchanges. So basically when you move from one cryptocurrency to another, it becomes a taxable event. And the course of debate is whether or not when you receive staking rewards, it is a taxable event at that price point. And why that's important is because right now, Cardano, it's between 8 and 9 cents. What if the mainnet happened today and the price is between 8 and 9 cents, and you're staking for a month and it stays relatively stable within that 8 to 9 cents range. But all of a sudden, it drops down to 2 cents or 1 cent, and it stays like that for the remainder of the calendar year. So when you're filing your 2020 taxes, all of a sudden you have all this ADA, and it's taxed at every single price point that you earned that ADA on, but you didn't have time to sell it at that time that you received the ADA. So you may have 1,000 ADA in your portfolio, and 500 of it is taxed at that 8 cent range, and then that other 500 is taxed at that 2 cent range. But you haven't realized any of those gains, so it's not fair to tax the person at that particular price point. So what they're proposing is that it would not be a taxable event when you receive your proof of stake reward. So when you're staking within mainnet, nothing is taxable until you sell. So you decide the price that you're going to sell, and then you pay the taxes once you sell at that particular price. Rick, I wanted to hand the floor over to you. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts about taxing at certain price points versus not taxing at all?
I think it's very complicated for something that is simple as it is. So, and I've talked about this with a lot of other folks too, is what taxes do you pay and when? And so, for example, if an epoch is every 5 days, on the day that that ADA is distributed, based on current U.S. policies, is you would pay at the time you receive that as a taxable event, and the percentages vary. Could be 30%. Okay, if it's determined to be capital gains. But really, the staking reward is just a result of inflation. So you're paying taxes on inflation. The bottom line is the taxes, or how taxing works on crypto, is too complicated, and you're getting taxed at many points along the way. So it makes it difficult to use as a transactional form or transactional device. So it does need to be simplified. And I think another thing that's very important is that they are addressing the legal and political aspects of blockchain technology. That's not the real sexy thing. When people think about they think about big things in crypto, looking at partnerships and adoption. And one of the critical bridges to adoption is establishing the correct legal framework that makes it either easier or more attractive to conduct business using cryptocurrencies. And also something else very important that Philippe pointed out, that if they use the selling point that cryptocurrency activities will create jobs, that gives them buy-in. And they say, oh, look, we can create these cryptocurrency activities to create jobs. So that's a great point. How you sell cryptocurrencies to businesses and individual people is a little bit different than how you sell cryptocurrencies to governments and policymakers and try to get policies made in your favor. So I'm glad to see the Cardano Foundation is working on that. And it is the kind of thing that we need to give more visibility. I noticed people in cryptocurrencies, or at least on the social media, tend to be political averse. Okay. Because usually politics is about things that are simply controversial based on individual preferences. Okay. Which is what politics is. But somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do the hard work and address the legislators to change the laws. The SEC can't change a law. Only elected officials, at least in most countries, elected officials can set and change laws. SEC simply enforces the law. And given a lack of legislation, they'll just pick whatever laws exist. And they say, well, these ones are the closest match, so we're going to just apply these laws to the cryptocurrencies. And not just the SEC, but the IRS. The SEC is simply for, is it a security or not? And how does that work? The key thing in the U.S. and most other countries is some entity, the taxing entity, in the U.S. being the IRS, what laws do they follow? A few years ago, it was simply capital gains. When you make money and you sell it for something else, you pay capital gains tax. So I guess they're going to have to define what selling means and when do the taxes occur. Otherwise they could just pick and choose all the laws and say every time you do anything with crypto, anytime it moves from point A to point B, it's taxed.
Yes, that wouldn't be fair at all. And when I first read the article, it said that this was a Washington-based alliance, and I was like, Washington, I think this was a typo. They should have said DC based, because I thought it was Washington State. And when you are when you are pushing for government regulation or when you're pushing for laws to push forward, you need to have representation in DC. DC is the hub of where you're going to get things done. I do government contracting in my normal business, and I've recently learned about how important it is in order to lobby certain organizations, in order to give your company a better standing within getting certain government contracts or doing this, doing that. So in the future, especially when this becomes a community-based project, when it becomes completely decentralized and we have this pot or this treasury, we really have to start thinking about, we need to probably hire lawyers. We need to probably hire people that are going to lobby in support of Cardano, because if you don't keep your foot on the gas pedal, then you're just going to get taxed to oblivion. And we're going to end up like a game show where you win money and then all of a sudden, you're paying 50% tax or something like that, because you're getting taxed at every single step. And I know there's a lot of people here that are trying to live within the Cardano ecosystem, live off the rewards. So we need to know, are we going to start selling our rewards that were from a year ago in order to pay that lower capital gains, that lower long-term capital gains tax rate? We need to have strategies in mind, and it's going to be up to us as a community when this becomes decentralized to maybe hire or support lawyers within who are invested in Cardano to really fight for us, to really lobby for us. Otherwise, because to tell you the truth, a lot of these representatives in DC, they don't really care about blockchain. They don't really understand it. But you got to put your money where your mouth is, and you've got to present proposals, and you've got to show them why this is important. And unless we keep on doing that, it's going to be very difficult in order for it to be favorable for you and I and everyone else who's investing within ADA.
Yeah. And, an interesting thing, the fight for on behalf of crypto is, it's not really a fight. It's education and salesmanship. It really is. Like we had Jonathan Dunsmore on here, and I would like to get him back later in the summer, have him come back on the Cardano Effect and talk to us once the staking is on mainnet, and see what else he's learned, because he talks to legislators all the time. So education and salesmanship is the key. You don't have to go argue. Making fun of them on social media isn't probably not going to help, but telling them, how does this benefit you? How does this benefit your constituents? How does it benefit society? How does it create jobs? And, why is it better than what we're currently doing? What does the technology enable, right? And that salesmanship and education is what's going to win the game. We'll catch more flies with honey.
Yes.
Yeah, we certainly will.
Yes.
And it will take an all-hands effort. So while the Cardano Foundation is doing the legwork in D.C. and in other capitals of countries and states, it helps to have other folks talking to their members of Congress or their local council members and anyone they can, and show them the benefits of this technology. That's the key. And it was interesting, they made the point that if you don't do it, China's going to beat you to it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have leverage over you because they're going to have a superior technology to what you're using. That's also a good selling point.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And Rick, they kind of destroyed Bitcoin in that whole long white paper that they sent to the SEC, just saying how much more energy efficient proof of stake protocols are. And the whole theme behind the paper, if you read the entire paper, it's basically saying that proof of stake is the future. Proof of stake is the future. And this is a new industry, and they really pushed forward, and they presented their facts and figures, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. And Philippe, you bring up a good point. Can I go on a sidetrack that people are probably interested? Okay. I occasionally get in a debate or start a debate on Twitter about proof of stake over proof of work. And there's an interesting cultural mentality that I think is kind of defective in the crypto community. And that's a paradigm that Bitcoin is king and will always be king. Bitcoin will always be king. Nothing else can ever beat Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin is not number one, then Bitcoin failed. That is the impression I get from crypto Twitter. People need to understand that Bitcoin doesn't always have to be number one forever and ever. And if Bitcoin ever goes to number two or number three, that Bitcoin failed. That's just not true. Okay. I'll give you an example. When automobiles were invented, the first automobile manufacturers were Peugeot, French company, and Benz. And I think Benz was based out of Germany, which is now Mercedes-Benz. At the time, they were number one and number two, okay, because they were the first automobile manufacturers. They are no longer number one and number two. They still make great cars. They still make great automobiles. But there are other technologies and other companies that were more efficient, and they are now ahead of Peugeot and Mercedes-Benz. Everyone has their niche in the market. So just because Bitcoin is not number one in the future, I mean, within 5 years, if Bitcoin stays number one forever with the power consumption that it uses, hating down Bitcoin. I'm not hating on Bitcoin. Just because you criticize a project for its weaknesses does not mean that you're hating on it or fudding it. You got to be able to criticize something. There is no end to the power consumption of Bitcoin. Next bull run, there's two things that are going to happen that happened last bull run and the bull run before, but definitely on the last bull run. Power consumption is going to double, and Bitcoin basically broke last bull run. It took over a day to do a transaction.
Yes.
At 5 transactions per second.
Yes.
That is a failure. It needs to be fixed. So if the Lightning Network doesn't fix it or something doesn't fix that, that's a problem. It needs to be fixed. It's okay to say that's a problem, right? It really is.
It is a problem.
You can't say, but every time I criticize Bitcoin in order to try to improve it on social media, they come at me. Oh, well, that's just how it is. Yeah. It's not going to get better until you can accept the criticism and then improve it so the people that work on the technology can make it better.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, I guess this is related, but I want to transition to Hawaii is a beautiful state. I went to Maui in 2012, and beautiful island. Right now, if you buy an ant miner, first of all, if you look at the history of ant miners, they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now they have like 2 fans. So you stack them, and then you go to the Bitcoin profitability calculator. And the reason why I bring up Hawaii is because it has one of the highest electricity costs in the United States. And Bitcoin is touted as this thing that's for the people, and anyone can get involved, anyone can mine. But if you set up a Bitcoin miner at the current price right now in Hawaii, you're going to be losing $5 a day. So if you want to lose money, move to Hawaii right now, get an ant miner, and start mining Bitcoin. And there's no reason why that should happen. And it's going to get worse and worse because Bitcoin spends so much money on security every single day. And eventually there's going to be a ceiling where it can't push any higher. And the cost to actually mine Bitcoin is just going to be astronomical. I know people are like hodl, but most people are everyday regular people that are mining Bitcoin. Why would they be taking a loss? It doesn't make any sense. You have a lot of lost leaders mining Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of the Bitcoin mining is taking place. For example, in the United States, it's in the Pac Northwest where you have hydropower. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
It occurs in countries where it's cheaper or it's already cool, like in Iceland. You got cool air. You don't have to pay for the cooling, for example. And that's why that kind of mining is going on there. And, that's one of the drawbacks of proof of work. So, yeah. I mean, that's just something that proof of stake solves. What's amazing, that I don't know if it's really set into the crypto community as a whole. Ouroboros works. It provides the same security properties as Bitcoin, between the selection the properties of Cardano have the same security properties as Bitcoin. It's just done differently where it's not dependent on energy, okay? And I think eventually that realization will set in and people will say, wow, it is providing the same level of security, possibly better, maybe even better. I don't know that, but it's based on the proofs and the research, it's the same security properties with significantly less power. Okay. Over time, eventually they're going to say, oh yeah, less power consuming, barrier to entry is lower, and they'll higher probability of getting involved with proof of stake. Plus, I could probably persuade someone to purchase one ADA at 10 cents a little bit easier than purchasing one Bitcoin at $10,000. The number is just so big that the average person would look at that and say, $10,000, why would I buy 0.0001 Bitcoin when I could buy one ADA for the same price, you know? It's just, that's just how people are. There's that sticker shock that sets in and you go, oh, I can buy this tiny fragment and over 5 years I could own one Bitcoin. Nobody wants to do that. Yeah. I'd be like, what? I mean, that isn't that why stock split? You know, Apple stock gets up to $400 and they do a stock split, and now everybody has double the stocks and it's on $200, right?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. No, I mean,
but the Bitcoin maxis would probably be like, oh no, you can't go from 17 million to 34 million Bitcoin or 21 million to 42 million or whatever, right? Yeah. That would just freak them out because it doesn't fit their paradigm, so they just their heads blow up.
Yes.
Connection, but I think it's working okay. We're using a newer technique today to broadcast.
Okay. Yeah, my connection may be going in and out. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, Rick, I caught your last statement, and you're right that that price factor is definitely a factor. Like if you look in the traditional stock market, you look at really expensive stocks. Let's say like Berkshire Hathaway. You know, you have Brick A shares and then Brick B, and Berkshire Hathaway Class A shares are like $200,000-$300,000, and Berkshire Class B shares are, you know, between $150 and $200. And there's two different shares. I mean, they represent the same company, but it targets two different investment classes. Obviously, someone that can afford one share of or a few shares of the Berkshire Class A is in a whole different financial bracket than someone that can afford only a few shares within Berkshire B. But people want ownership, and you get ownership with Cardano because it's not going to be $10,000 per ADA. So,
when I was like 26 years old, I went to go get involved with my first stocks with my friend Jose Morales, and he was telling me how to purchase stocks because he was involved with Pokemon. I think it was Niantic or whatever the company was that made Pokemon cards, right? And he was telling me how to do it, and then he was showing me the other stocks that had $5,000 buy-ins. I said, $5,000? Nobody got $5,000. How are you going to buy into that?
Yeah,
I can't buy into that.
Yeah,
I'll just go keep using the savings plan that my employee had or the military had at the time, the savings plan that you use for putting money away. So it's an easier barrier to entry with smaller amounts, you know, small
definitely.
monthly payments, and I can, you know. So yeah, that sticker shock of buying into Bitcoin at $10,000, people are just going to look at that and go, what? You know, I think one of the main things that are propping up Bitcoin are the exchanges and the altcoins, as they call it, which I think is a terrible name. And then the trading. So the trading pairs on the exchanges, where if you want any other coin, you got to start with either Bitcoin or Ethereum to get to that coin. So you trade your fiat to Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then you trade it into the other coin on most exchanges. But you got a lot of places, a lot of exchanges going directly from euro to the token, or from dollars to the token. So I think over time, as more and more of that occurs, you're going to see less and less dependency on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then the market will normalize and the technologies will show their true market value once that happens.
Yes. And
it's a cultural shift and a paradigm shift. And, you know, people don't like change. They just don't.
That's true.
I mean, 33% people don't like change. 33% are indifferent, 33% want the new stuff, and 33% want to stay stuck on the old ways. Right. It's just kind of how it weighs out. So all right.
Also wanted to say, because Rick mentioned earlier that, you know, although the Washington, D.C. based Proof of Stake Alliance is based in D.C., the Cardano Foundation is also working with organizations around the world. I have the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications, There's also the Blockchain for Europe, which is located in Brussels. And that is also one of the founding members of Blockchain for Europe is Manmeet Singh. And we had Manmeet Singh on the podcast. So he's pushing for legislation to move forward for crypto in Brussels, which is wonderful. And the Cardano Foundation is also working together with the Algorithmic Contract Types Unified Standards, ACTUS, and creating a standard framework for smart contracts in finance. And this is especially important because although we don't have smart contracts now, and it's probably going to take a while until we get smart contracts, pushing forward a standard of what companies should be looking for, having already a clearly defined manual of what companies should be using or how they should be adopting or what certain parameters that they should be setting their smart contracts to is going to make the transition to smart contracts a lot smoother and a lot quicker. Instead of waiting for smart contracts and then starting the legislation process. They're doing that now, and the returns are going to show in the next few years, I believe. So shout out to the Cardano Foundation. I think they're doing great work as far as the legislation aspect.
Yeah, and stay on it. It's a lot. There's so much work to do. So much work to do on that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. And also and a shout out to Emergo for all the work they've been doing. I've seen a lot of announcements on Twitter, but where I think Emergo's really going to kick in is once those smart contracts come out by the end of this year. By the end of this year, when we have smart contracts running on Cardano, Emergo's going to be really busy. They're going to get real busy. All right, Philippe, I'm going to check chat, and if you want to check for the next news, and also we'll hop over to Reddit.
Okay,
we're just a little over halfway through today's stream. For people who just showed up, Big Pay, hi, welcome, good to see you there. That you caught one. The Elite Trance asked if there's. I'm going to scroll up to the top and go through looking for questions. Is there anything you do to help me on the ITN? Actually, no. Unless you're physically present here with me, there isn't much you can do. Although I can remote into the nodes that I have here. I don't like to share passwords. I don't want to share my passwords and my tokens and my secrets. Sorry, buddy. Thank you for the offer, the Elite Trance, and maybe you could run your own pool at some point. That would be great. Hopefully it's not too difficult once the HTN, the Haskell testnet is complete, and the exercises should be a lot easier to understand and follow. And plus you have community members making things easier to set up nodes. So check that out, Elite Trance, as things are released later in June. And dates, Philippe. If you want to hit on dates, let me know.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So we can hit on dates right now.
Yeah.
And then I have that written down in my notes. So
yeah. Brian Penley had a question here. Instead of every epoch, do people prefer quarterly or end of year when it comes to taxes, like as a general feeling from the community? Yeah, so if people want to let Brian know, when would you prefer to pay taxes as opposed to every single transaction that's taxable or every single epoch? Is there a better way? Hopefully there is. I like the way Philippe described earlier with when you sell, pay the capital gains.
Yes, and if you plan on making a lot of money within crypto, I always advise people, get a CPA. Just get a CPA and talk it over with your CPA.
Yeah, that stuff's too complicated. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. Do you think there will be any tie-up with Avanti and C Long? I think that's Caitlin Long. I don't know. Any word if there's a Cardano 401k plan? Just seen Bitwage has one for Bitcoin. I don't know. I won't be surprised. I've imagined for quite some time that eventually you will see cryptos rolled into 401ks. And hopefully at some point, maybe I should just do it. I should just go down to the bank and try to put my crypto into a Roth IRA, because you can put almost anything in them. I think you put gold certificates or something like that, and you say, hey, I want to put this in my IRA and not touch it, and somehow you can get it in there. But crypto will make that kind of stuff easier.
I had no idea you could do that. You can go to your local bank and just.
Well, yeah, my bank.
How does that process work?
You fill out an application to open up an IRA, an individual retirement account, and then you plug in the assets. And I don't know how it works. That's why I paid a guy to do it. Okay. Some of the services they have are Let me think. So some of the services they have at the bank are no cost, but that particular service I had to pay for.
Okay.
I just took a certain chunk of asset and I said, I want to put this into a retirement account. And he worked some magic and said, I recommend this one. Here's the fee, blah, blah, blah. Boom.
Okay.
And that's why they make money, because they know how to do that. I don't. That's the middleman we talk about in crypto.
Yeah.
Some of them are very useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that I'm operating a pool, I'm starting to become a middleman of some sort. So don't get rid of all of them. Okay. All right. Looks like we're getting some more questions in chat. Did you want to get onto the dates, Philippe? This is a really good stuff, man.
Okay. Yes. So the dates. So if you missed it, IOHK, I don't know if it was a week and a half ago. It might have been a week and a half ago. They came out with a Cardano Shelly rollout plan. So for all those who are new to Cardano, maybe you're a new investor, maybe you're thinking about investing, whatever the case may be. Right now we're in the ITN, the incentivized testnet, and you cannot stake within the ITN if you missed the snapshot in November of 2019. So everyone who's staking right now, it's because they had ADA in a Cardano ready, in a ITN ready address or a ITN ready wallet within Daedalus or Yoroi. And if you missed that, you missed it, and you're going to have to wait until mainnet. But the good news is that mainnet is a couple of months away. So the rollout plan, I can't really read this correctly, but June 9th is supposed to be the public testnet in the faucet. So right now what's going on is there's a testnet going on for the Haskell version of Shelly. So this is the mainnet version of Shelly. In the ITN, it is the Rust version. Right now it's going to be the Haskell version. So you have friends and families and pioneers that are working on getting their Haskell nodes up and running. And on June 9th, which is in 2 days, the public testnet and faucet is going to be available. On June 16th, you're going to have the Shelly test wallet available. On June 23rd, you have a hard fork combinator test. And at the end of June, there's a balance check test. So this is going to be the balance check for the ITN. So whatever you earned within rewards is going to be a snapshot's going to be taken. And that's going to be crucial for redeeming your rewards once that happens. I believe it's in sometime in August. But in June and July, that's when things are going to start wrapping up. I believe July 1st, if I'm reading it correctly. The dates are very fuzzy. I should have printed this in a higher resolution. But it's supposed to be the end of the legacy SL, so the end of the legacy settlement layer. And on July 7th or 9th, the Shelly code release, and the Shelly hard fork is on July 29th. And then your ITN rewards are going to be available on August 1st, and staking rewards are on August 18th, I believe. So basically, to sum it up, it's ending very soon. In July, look for some fireworks, and in August, I believe that everyone should probably be staking within the mainnet. Give or take a few weeks. We don't know exactly if these are permanently hard dates. I know it says it, but there's, there are definitely intangibles in these things. But I think everyone should be marking the month of the end of July and the beginning of August, the month of August, as the time when they're going to be ready to stake. So anyone who has ADA is going to be able to stake within Daedalus or Yoroi and finally join the Cardano ecosystem, which is wonderful.
Yes. And keep in mind that really interesting thing called the D parameter, that once the mainnet comes online, the federated nodes will be making all of the first blocks, probably for the first, is it going to be the first 2 epochs? Something like that. And all the federated nodes will make them. The hard fork combinator or whatever will be running whatever in the background. But then as the D parameter counts down, it'll start as D at 1, and then it might go to either 0.9 or 0.8. So it might decrement every epoch from 1 to 0.9, or from 1 to 0.8, 0.6, 0.4. Okay, depending on how they determine how that's going to work. Then that will allow the decentralization process to occur over a period of a month or a month and a half. Could be 20 to 40 days for that to occur. So keep that in mind. And as that occurs, as the D parameter counts down, the pool nodes will be making the blocks. And once it counts down to 0, it will be, at that point, completely decentralized. Yes. Pretty amazing stuff how they plan this out. Very interesting.
Glad
to be here in the early days, so to speak.
Yes. And yes, I mean, that's wonderful. And so I gets questions about when you can stake. Look for those months. And I think this transitions into the next announcement that we have about the virtual summit, because we don't know exactly what's going to be said at the virtual summit, but it's happening on July 2nd and July 3rd. And if you look at the Shelley rollout calendar, you see there are some critical dates within that time period. So the virtual summit is going to be, well, they had a summit last year. For all of those that are not familiar, they had an IOHK summit in 2019 in Miami, and it was a spectacle. It was definitely a great event that was put forward. So right now you can go, of course, because of Corona and COVID, we're not going to have an in-person summit, but the summit is going to be a virtual summit. So anyone can come and enjoy all the speakers that they're going to have, all the presentations they're going to have. You can go and sign up on ubevent.com/register/Cardano virtual summit. And the time periods are going to be for everyone in Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be from 9:30 to 4:30 for 2 days. So 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. For Mountain Standard Time, 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And for British Summer Time, it's going to be 2:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. for the 2 days. So I'm sure things are going to be pre-recorded. If you miss those dates, you're going to probably be able to check it out. There are two announced guests so far: Vint Cerf, who was vice president of Google and one of the fathers of the internet, and Stephen Wolfram, I believe. He is the founder of Wolfram Alpha. I used that a lot when I was in school, by the way. So great speakers, and Stephen Wolfram spoke in the 2019 summit. So two great speakers, and I'm sure that a lot of the big names that you see within the IOHK team portal are going to probably be making videos and showing and telling exactly what they're working on. So it's going to be a great learning experience, and it should be a fun event for everyone to attend. So I highly suggest that anyone that wants to attends.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of energy too, because it looks like the dates of the summit kind of fall right in the middle of the decentralization process. Yeah, that's how it looks. So you're going to have a lot of excitement going into that. That's good stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's that.
I'm looking forward to it. This should be cool.
And one of the last things that I wanted to cover before we go on to Reddit or jump into the community questions, there was a blog article on the Cardano website. It was called "The Abstract Nature of the Cardano Consensus Layer," written by Edsko de Vries. And basically it describes the topography of what's going on within the Cardano ecosystem, how it is layered. So there are multiple layers. There's the network layer, which is on the bottom, then the consensus layer, and then you have the ledger layer, which is on top. And the reason why this is important is because you're hearing about a lot of hard forks, and this date we're going to switch to this and this. All of this is being done on the ledger layer, which is top, and it's devoid of the consensus layer. So things can happen within the ledger layer that are pretty much independent of what's going on in the consensus layer. And the consensus layer, that middle layer, doesn't need to know what's happening within the ledger layer in order for it to continue to function. So when we switch from the Shelley testnet to the Shelley mainnet, basically we're just flipping a switch for that last layer, that ledger layer. We're just going from one layer to a next layer. And it's exactly like I saw on Rick's YouTube channel probably last week, or whenever. I'm losing track of dates. He was live streaming the SpaceX shuttle launch. It's exactly like that. So the rocket boosters are disassembling, and it's switching to another fuel, or it's switching to another compartment, and that's how you can visualize it. The ledger layer, it's a whole bunch of different compartments of fuel, and as it gets higher and higher and higher, things disassemble, they detach, but just like the SpaceX, you can always recover the rocket boosters that safely land on those drone pads. So things are happening in multiple different layers, and that's exactly what's going on. And check out that article. And Rick also mentioned the use of combinators, so that hard fork combinator, that date that the hard fork combinator is going to happen. That hard fork combinator is going to allow IOHK to test things before they fully deploy. So it's basically a beta test to make sure that things are not going abysmally wrong before it actually gets launched live. So this combinator helps IOHK to maybe predict what's going to happen in the future. They can set certain parameters. They can say this number of nodes, and they can set the latency for certain blocks to be formed, and then they can run these simulations before actually deploying it on the actual ledger layer. So go and check out that article. It has a lot of interesting stuff. And Rick?
I need to read more about this hard fork combinator just out of sheer curiosity. I'm just curious because what's interesting is if you watch the proof of work, like I follow Ethereum, we do have an Ethereum question I'll get to here shortly in the chat. A lot of times you'll see people saying, "Hey, at this block or at this point in time," you'll see them on social media saying, "We're all going to switch to the next protocol," right? The Phoenix protocol or whatever the name of the next version is. So everybody knows, okay, download the latest one and switch over to the newest protocol, and that way everything keeps running along fine. So I'm wondering, or I'm trying to imagine, what does this hard fork combinator do? Does it allow different protocols to run at the same time, and everybody doesn't have to magically throw the switch at the same time? I think that's what it does, so I got to read up more on it to understand a little better. Is that the general idea? Like,
yeah, that's
different
that's
protocols
general
can
idea.
run, and it'll still keep going. Like if something's on an older protocol or the old fork and something else is on the new fork, they'll still be able to talk, and you didn't break one or the other because the hard fork combinator is acting like a translator. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
So you can talk to each other. Okay.
Yes. From what I understood, it's like it can run simulations before it actually goes live. So, and if there are any glitches or bugs, it can mitigate that because it's kind of ahead of what's going on in the ledger layer. So it can be working simultaneously on multiple different layers if you're working within the Shelly testnet layer versus the Shelly mainnet layer, and running certain simulations that will be live eventually. And if there are catastrophic bugs, it can not necessarily roll them back, but stop them to mitigate the extent of the damage that could be done. So it's like a testing ground before. So that's how I understood it.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing stuff, man. Amazing.
Yes,
all right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So in the chat, Sinas Lee asks, would you say Ethereum is now basically taken over by special interests, not competitiveness, but the interest of those who are invested in it? How's that different from the existing banking system? Well, it's kind of hard to describe, but basically everybody loves their bags. Like if I'm holding Ethereum bags, I'm going to love and defend my Ethereum bags. If I'm holding Cardano bags, I'm going to love and defend my Cardano bags. You notice Philippe and I never do disclaimers on the Cardano effect. It's because if you're on YouTube or a podcast and you're talking about Cardano, you better have some Cardano or at least know something about Cardano, right?
Yeah.
If I'm watching a YouTube video on surfing, I hope that guy owns a surfboard. He doesn't have to give me a disclaimer. Hey guys, disclaimer here. I actually own a surfboard. Well, you better own a surfboard. You're doing a podcast about surfboards. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of common sense goes a long way. But for some reason, when it comes to finances, you got to do a disclaimer. So, yes, is Ethereum suffer the same problems as traditional banking systems? Yes, because everybody does. They've got a vested interest in there, so that kind of dissuades the way they do things, or it affects the way they do things. So I wish I could answer it better, but it's complicated, a little bit over my head. Let me see. There's a question about if changing the delegation from one pool to another because you think it would give you better ROS, it could theoretically be taxable event too, right? Oh, that's a good point. If you switch from one pool to another, would it be a taxable event? Personally, I don't think so, but I'm not a tax expert, so it doesn't matter what I think. But, that's a good point. That's a good point. You're switching pools.
Yeah.
All new complex things that need to be figured out. Good question. Let's see. I think we got most of the questions there. Here's one from Nishan Patel. How likely is it for someone that has no experience to be able to run a stake pool? And is it worth it to learn or just to pledge to a pool? It's not very likely. You have to have a solid understanding of Linux, how it works, the underlying infrastructure. Although It also runs, the ITN also runs on Windows and Mac, okay? But the Haskell nodes are currently primarily on Linux. So you have to have a basic DevOps level understanding. You have to have a thorough system admin level understanding. So you got to understand the underlying computer technologies you're using, and then you're going to plop the node on top of that, and then you got to understand the complexities of the node. It's not too difficult if you understand either Linux, Windows, or Mac very, very well. Putting the node on top of that is the easy part. It's understanding the details of how the computers work is the hard part. Okay. Well,
Yes.
no, that's not the only hard part. Understanding all of the command line and doing it correctly is also the hard part.
Yes. Yes.
Just to be completely honest about it, it is not for the faint of heart.
No.
But
No.
but it's never too late to learn. I'm a big fan of learning. You know, every day learn something new. Every day learn something new. So don't hold yourself back. Watch some YouTube videos on how to Linux, how to Ubuntu, how to Windows, and also watch some of the videos that people put out, like Big Pay, on how to Node.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely.
So
Definitely.
don't ever let it stop you. Learn it. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be okay. You don't have to be already a turbo nerd. You can become one.
Exactly.
If you're not a nerd, you can be a nerd. Learn how to be a nerd.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not as easy as it seems, and it's not as hard as it lies somewhere in the middle, but I would say that it's more advanced, and you need to have the time and the effort to put into the pool. And at the end of the day, you know, depending on how much ADA you have, it may not even be worth your time to start up a pool. You may get higher ROS delegating, but it all depends on how much ADA you have, how much delegation that you expect to receive, and you know, what you're doing with your time. You know, if you're retired or you're not working that much and you're just enjoying life, then go for it. You know, but if you are extremely busy and you know you're just working on your investment, then maybe it may make sense to just delegate to a pool and set it and forget it.
Mm-hmm. Plus, we've had questions, and we'll talk about this in the next live stream. People are asking about pledging to a pool instead of staking, like forming partnerships. That's a very complex thing. That's going to require a lot of discussion. It's also going to require a lot of inputs from people who are working on trying to do that. And we'll touch on that in a next episode, the next live stream, on how to form partnerships with pledging. But I would need more understanding of what people are thinking before I could even begin to speak to something like that.
Yes, and we also need to know the A0 and the K factor, so you know people can understand what the business is behind it, to whether or not they even want to go that route. So I'm assuming that we may hear something from people soon, because mainnet is right around the corner, and I'm hoping that we get it sooner than later, at least some preliminary values, so people can start crunching some numbers and seeing whether or not it's even worth their time, or should they delegate or whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, here's the positive thing. This is how well thought out Cardano really is. In the Friends and Family testnet, there is a link from Kevin Hammond. So those of you that are on the Friends and Family, and I know I've been absent the last couple weeks, I apologize, but that's life. What they are asking for is, how much is your cost to operate the pool? Because they're going to collate that and figure it out. And I'll give you an example. You know, what is your time worth, and how much time do you have to put into building your pool and keeping it running and maintaining it? How much money do you have to spend on your internet? How much money do you have to spend on software licenses, if that's what you need to do? Or if you're running an AWS node instance or a DigitalOcean node, how much money are you paying? Now, when you do cost estimates, it's a good idea to estimate your time based on what you think your time is worth. And then what they're going to do is they're going to look at those inputs, and that's also going to affect how those parameters are set. Because for the pools to run healthy indefinitely, basically forever, there has to be a value in doing it, right? It just can't run for free forever. That's just not how anything works. Nothing works like that. Everything costs money. So they're trying to put that cost in to help in calculating the best K and A0 parameters so that the pool operators are not, if they race to the bottom and go to 0% profit, that's going to be a problem. Basically, that's what I'm getting at, right? Because, 5 years from now, maybe I'm not running a pool anymore, okay? Maybe I'm living in Hawaii, right? Yeah. And someone else takes over running a pool. But if there's no value to doing it, then they're not going to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just touched on this podcast about how Bitcoin mining in Hawaii is you take a loss. So we don't want to be at that situation. So we don't want it to be exactly. You don't want the mining process, the security process, to become a deficit. You don't want that to happen. It has to be at a minimum. It has to break even, but at an optimum, it has reward and it has value. Yes.
And that will produce a better network. And also that also reinforces the point, it's never too late to learn. I'll give you a good example. Umed is a very smart and humble man. And he came on here as a financial analyst. A couple of times he's been on the Cardano effect. And also he took the time to learn Linux even more. So he's running his nodes. So he just said, I'm going to learn Linux. And there you go. And now he's running nodes and doing all kinds of great things. So never too late to learn. Make sure you learn Linux and all that if you ever want to run your own node. Should we do a quick recap on Reddit over there?
Okay.
And then we'll be done. We're approaching the hour mark. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to get to them in chat. Hopefully I didn't miss them. Feel free to repost in case I did miss your questions in chat. I'm hopping over to the Reddit weekly sort by top 10. We'll do a quick Reddit recap. There's some good news in there for our Reddit community, our Reddit users, the Reddit folks. Cardano has hit 80,000 strong. So there's a post in there from one of our favorite community moderators, South Rye. Thank you, South Rye, for all of the work you do as a moderator. And he posted 80,000 strong. So Cardano Reddit is now at 80,200 members. Currently, there are 711 online. 711 online. Okay. So that's our number one post over on Reddit. Well done. Lots of folks over there. People always want to see community estimates. How big is your community? It's really hard to figure out.
It is.
I have a Reddit account and a Telegram account and a Twitter account. I tend to lean on Telegram for intelligent conversation, and I lean on Twitter for just broadcasting general information, right? If you want to focus, I use Telegram, and if you want broadcast, I use Twitter. And then if you want a deep dive, Reddit is great for deep dive, and it threads well. So we've got 80,000 people over there on Reddit threading well. Okay. All right, the second post was 80,000 subs. Woohoo! All right, nice. That's a good sign, healthy. And we're not even in a bull run.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. That is true.
Come bull run. Woo!
Yeah.
You'll get new arrivals coming in.
But Cardano, we're back in the top 10. I mean, that was we had a little pump. The volume was looking pretty impressive, and that's very encouraging, because I think that if you look at the other, I'm not trying to bash anyone else's other cryptocurrencies that they're invested in, but this is definitely this is a top 10 project for sure, and we can debate where it falls on that top 10 list. But it is a top 10 project. So if it doesn't belong in the top 10, especially if you compare it with other cryptos within that top 10 network, it belongs in there. Yeah. So, I think it's good to be on top 10. We're probably going to be fighting for that top 10 spot. I think we're sandwiched in between Tezos and EOS. Yeah. But, it looks good.
Yeah, it does. And there's a combination of speculation and confidence that's doing that. And I know, I've heard people say that the CoinMarketCap doesn't matter, or words to that effect. CoinMarketCap doesn't lie. People put their money where their mouth is. It's just like the stock market. I've heard financial analysts describe the stock market is very intelligent because it's the combination of millions of people making decisions. And CoinMarketCap is also that it's the same or a similar device or similar thing. And what a coin's value is based on millions of people making decisions. Therefore, it has an intelligent property to it. It's not just some pump and dump or whatever.
Exactly.
Although it sometimes looks that way.
It does.
But
I think
it's a very intelligent result.
Yeah. I think what's going to look good in the future is when you look at these cryptocurrencies, especially at the beginning of this podcast. Rick, you were informing me about people putting their different assets in their IRA or within their 401k. So when that time comes where people's IRA or 401k is going to include a more diversified portfolio, it's going to include cryptocurrencies. Those hedge fund managers or those trade managers or those 401k managers, IRA managers are going to be looking at resources like CoinMarketCap, looking at liquidity, looking at the time that you spend within certain rankings. Because, if they have a cryptocurrency that's number 8 one day and number 500 the next day, number 20 the next day, that's not going to show consistency. They're going to want to put portfolios in safe projects, and they're going to be using things like CoinMarketCap, because not every person, even the people investing billions of dollars, are going to do a deep dive of the project like everyone who's within this podcast chat room right now. They're not going to know as much as you and I. They're not going to know as much as everyone within the chat. They're going to look to see what the community is doing, what CoinMarketCap's doing, what the statistics are, and then that's how they're going to value their judgment, value their investment. It's the same for if anyone's familiar with Robinhood. A lot of people are trading on their phones. They have no real attachment to the companies that they're investing in. For most people, they're not fundamental traders. They're looking for consistency. If they think that Tesla's going to the moon, they're going to, and Tesla's coming out with a new car, they're going to make sure that they invest in Tesla. And it's going to be the same with cryptocurrency. It's kind of goes on right now, but it's going to be exacerbated as we grow.
It will. And those 80,000 people that we just talked about on Reddit those are going to be the people who educate the next wave of new people, right? So you got 80,000 people out there who have a good understanding, a good basic understanding of Cardano. Some of them have a very detailed understanding of Cardano. And those are going to be the folks who are explaining to the world how it works. One-on-one, one at a time. The old saying, there was a commercial when I was a kid. I think it was Prel or one of the shampoos, and it said, or L'Oreal or whatever. And they say, and they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. So every time one person tells 2 friends, you double the capacity of how many people are involved or at least understand it, right?
Yes.
You're not trying to sell it or pimp it, but you want to help people make good decisions. If you got a new technology that comes out, how many people have you heard say, oh, I wish I would have bought Google stock back in 1997 or something like that? Yeah, everybody said it or heard somebody say it.
Yeah. Yes.
Could this be it? Maybe.
Yes.
Right?
Who knows? I mean, people say that about Bitcoin. I wish I bought Bitcoin in 2009, but it wasn't easily accessible to buy Bitcoin back in the day. So chances are that most people lost that opportunity, but I wouldn't even consider it an opportunity because the gate was so closed and the markets were so not understood. But this could be a potential opportunity.
Yeah.
Plus
it had to propagate. It took time. It took time for the knowledge to get out there, and they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and so on, until enough people understood it to where it became functional, and eventually somebody bought a pizza with it. And from there, the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly.
Bitcoin pizza guy. That was just recently, a couple weeks ago. All right, let me see what else on Reddit. Any other quick recaps? There's some of Charles' AMAs on there. Charles has been a juggernaut lately. Check out his channel. Catch up on the AMAs. If it's an hour-long AMA, if you want information on Cardano, definitely catch the first half, and there you'll get the information on Cardano. The second half, you get information on, what's your favorite food, how fast is your Lamborghini, right? Stuff like that. So make sure you catch at least the first half of every hour-long AMA. Okay. And then he has several shorter, brief ones that are updates that range between about 10 and 15 minutes where it focuses on a particular aspect of Cardano, and then he just bangs out the info. So check out his channel in the last month. Total juggernaut, probably, 10 or 12 videos I've had a hard time keeping up.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time I look at my phone, oh, look, there's another notification. You got another video out. Let's see. One person says in Reddit, gave my friend 1,000 ADA 2 days ago to settle a debt and just heard him on the phone talking about Cardano to a friend. There you go. One thing crypto can do well, exchange of value or peer-to-peer digital currency. Number one, peer-to-peer digital currency, exchange of value. Store of value is what Bitcoin became because of the paltry 5 transactions per second. You know, you can't have a global peer-to-peer digital currency at 5 transactions per second. But there you go. You can use cryptocurrencies to settle a debt with a friend. Speaking of which, have I lost any bets lately? I threw a lot of bets out there. I got to go back and check.
Rick, you have the most open bets within the Cardano ecosystem. I'll give you the title of king.
I lost one to Kyle O, the guy who runs Community Lovelace Pool. I lost the start date of the ITN.
Okay.
I think I guessed Thursday. He said Tuesday or something, or his was closer, or vice versa. So I lost that one. Let's see. Look, I think we're good.
I think we're good. Yeah.
We are good. Okay, we are just over our hour. All right.
Okay.
Any other questions in chat? You guys let me know. From Cardano Dan, hey guys, keep up the great work. Thank you, Cardano Dan. I appreciate it.
Yep. Quentin, how you doing?
Greg B is laughing at me. He says, "Oh no, comparing Cardano to Google stock, we are doomed." I mean, it's fair enough, right? You know, a little bit speculative.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Crypto Knight, and then we'll wrap it up for a few others. From Crypto Knight, hey guys, I wanted to know, will the migration of our testnet ADA to the mainnet Shelley era wallet be difficult? And will the ADA we hold be the same as the mainnet ADA, or will we have to take action? What you'll have to do is pay very close attention to the IOHK announcements and the Cardano Foundation and Emergo announcements. You will have to put your 15-word reward wallet, or multiple plural, but you put the 15 words from your rewards into the mainnet once the mainnet is out. When you put those 15 words into that wallet, the ADA will come into existence under your control. That's the general idea. Please, great question. Please keep your eyes and ears open for details. Big Pay, make sure you get us a video out there. Philippe, you'll get us a video out on your channel, right?
For sure. Most definitely.
Good. All right. So we'll get some videos out on that, and we'll also make sure to bring it up on the Cardano Effect as well. All right. Let me see. Hack the Planet bets me 25.8 on something. Let's see. Hopefully I answered your question, Crypto Knight. Thank you. Very good question. Make sure you hold those 15-word rewards wallet. I just keep all the word seeds, okay? Let's see. Lucian Timoft says, will peer discovery be implemented, or will pool operators have to keep updating the topology file for the relay nodes? Yes, peer discovery will be implemented eventually at some point. Maybe something like the Poltercast, but better. Although I thought Poltercast is great. I mean, it's running right now. It's doing a great job. I don't know the details. But there is a peer discovery. There has to be something that allows dynamically joining and leaving the network. It works for the dayless wallets, but it also needs to work that way for the pool nodes. We'll see. Great question. Let's see. I know him. He's a pool operator too. Lucian, thank you for that question.
Christian asked, what do you guys think about Charles's video about Bitcoin Cash?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I only caught partials of it. However, he's a fan of Roger Ver, and I agree. I like Roger Ver. In his video, he explained that the Bitcoin Cash community is more friendly, welcoming, and opening. I don't want to quote him. I don't like to quote people. But it's a welcoming community with Bitcoin Cash, more so than it was with Bitcoin and some other communities. And that's very important, is you want a community to be welcoming and friendly, yet also critical of themselves without being critical of people. Like, one of the worst things you can do is call someone a noob. Oh, you're a noob. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you just lost that guy.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
I ain't coming back. Are you going to call me noob? Well, I'll go over there where they'll actually explain to me how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be forever. There are always noobs.
Yeah.
Noobs are forever.
Yeah.
The more noobs you collect, the more success you will have. So collect noobs. I don't mind answering the same questions over and over again. If you're answering the same questions over and over again, you have new people.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Right? Most definitely. Anyone that's in the chat right now listening or watching to the Cardano Effect and they're brand new within the Cardano ecosystem, you may have purchased ADA within the past couple of weeks or thinking about purchasing. This is a great podcast for you to learn about what's going on within this ecosystem. It is episode 91. 91. We have numerous episodes with top scientists at IOHK. We have interviews with people at the Cardano Foundation. We have Emergo. We have our live streams. We have so much information on this channel. 91 episodes. There's so much content to learn and see exactly how this project has grown over time. And there are a lot of other cryptocurrency projects that couldn't fill in 91 episodes of content. And that goes to show you what this project is doing, because we're not repeating the same stuff. You can go. Our catalog is up forever. It's different stuff all the time. So, yeah, have fun.
Yep. Oh, Philippe, you know what? You bring up a good point. We're on episode 91.
Yeah.
And by August 18th, we might be on episode 100. We might want to figure out how to do a little bit of timing there. So episode 100 is at a significant point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we can do that. It's hard to do. We'll try to figure that out. There's a good point in here. We're almost about to wrap up, but from Greg B. Jr., Greg mentions that the slot battle issue code has been made, but still needs testing. That's correct. Thank you, Greg. Okay. One of the major problems with the previous Jormungandr code is that time problem, right? Where the slot battles, if you're in South America or Hawaii, you lose a lot of slot battles due to the distance from the geographic center of the network, all right? So the HTN has the code in it. The Haskell has the code will select by the VRF hash. It's going to look for the hash. So instead of within a window, so here's a narrow window of time, and let's say 2 blocks or more. It doesn't happen often, about 5% of the time. 2 blocks fall into the same slot. Instead of going by the first one to arrive, it will go through this process to select based on the hash. That way it will get to 50-50 and solve that problem. So well done to you engineers who figured that out. Usually the simplest solution is best. And that was a simple solution. And, well, I don't know how hard it is to code. It's probably hard to code, but it was a very simple answer right there, and they did it, and now it's under testing. So thanks for that information. Great stuff. Last one, Philippe, that I can think of, you got from said Chems.
Okay.
Question on Daedalus, and we're going to wrap it up. Oops, where am I at? I lost it. Question on Daedalus. Do you know why it generates new addresses for every transaction in Daedalus for privacy? Is your wallet then associated with all those addresses? Which one is used to transact? Well, it depends on if you're sending or receiving. Let's say I want to receive 100 ADA from Philippe because of a bet, and I send him one address that's already been used, and I say send it to this address, then that 100 ADA will go to the address that I gave him. Or I can hit generate new, and now I have another address. The more addresses you have, the more UTXOs, and they start to build up. The more you have those, the more a transaction is going to cost. When it starts to pull the ADA from all those different addresses, it's not much. It's just going to change the fee a little bit. So you can reuse addresses, but from what I've read, that it's best to make new ones when you're sending ADA. It improves security. I don't know how it works. So we're going to have to dive a little deeper into that question once we get someone who's an expert or a read up on it.
Sebastian was talking about that in one of the episodes back in the day.
He did. A very earlier episode, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That covers all the questions, and
All
we're
right.
over. We're good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the guys and girls that are watching the podcast, listening to the podcast. Please remember to like, comment, and share. And for those that are listening, download the podcast, support us in all the ways that you can. Just share it, like it, and we appreciate you. Our podcast has grown tremendously, and it's all thanks to you. This is the Cardano. We represent what's going on within the Cardano ecosystem, and I feel like all of us are, although this is a digital podcast, we're all in the same room right here. We're all on the same team, and we're pushing forward. So hopefully everyone has a wonderful weekend, the rest of the weekend, wonderful week, and I'm sure there will be news again next week, and we'll come back again soon. Thank you, everyone. Until the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.